emotional health impacts your kitties so much, because cats are very, very in tune with us, much more than sometimes we realize.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Pet Care Report podcast by Pet Summits. Here's your natural cat healthcare host, Dr. Meghan Barrett.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Pet Care Report. We've got a very special guest with us here today, Dr. Christina Chambreau. So a little bit about her. After graduating in 1980 from veterinary school, Dr. Christina has spoken and written about holistic health approaches for animals since 1987. Her passion in life is to empower you to heal yourself and your animals in ways that also heal the planet. She is on the faculty of the Holistic Actions Academy, on the All Paws Pet Talk TV show, and virtually coaches people to have healthier animals. So welcome again, Dr. Christina. Thank you so much for your time and being on the show today.
Oh, I'm tickled pink to be here. Literally, I love being able to have felines around the world be happier and healthier in all ways, in ways that help our lovely planet.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. So some of the topics we'll be covering today include vitality building strategies for our cats, detecting early signs of imbalances, and how we can have owners be more educated and involved in their cat's care. So let's jump straight in. Our first question is, what are some effective strategies for building vitality and maintaining balance in a cat's overall well-being? And how do these differ from traditional symptomatic treatment methods?
Well, one of the keys there is traditional symptomatic treatment methods. And the real key to having what's possible, I know one cat in Austin, Texas, that many of you may have heard of, who lived a healthy life to age 38. And I worked with Gail Pope of Brighthaven, who was adopting cats at 16 to 20. And the first one I treated lived to be 34. And many of them lived to be 20 to in their late 20s. And of course, some died shortly after adopting. They were all very ill. But imagine what you could do with your cats starting now. Having said that, one of the most important things for your health, which then rolls over because your emotional health impacts your kitties so much, because cats are very, very in tune with us, much more than sometimes we realize.
Yeah.
And that is, if your cat does get ill, or you've just had a cat recently, and now this is the next cat, and the cat died at 10, 14, 16, and you're going, what did I do wrong? What's wrong with me? I blew it. No. And so that's very important to know. Yes, it's important to know that some cats do make it to 38 to 34, but more important is, what's the quality of life? And as long as you're working from day one to have the very best quality of life for you and your animals, that's the goal. Now, the shift that needs to happen in terms of your thinking. So number one, actually, I sort of said it, but I want to articulate it more, which is, there's no one right answer. There's no one right expert. On this summit, you're going to be hearing from tons of experts. You're going to be hearing stories that inspire you because the animals have lived so long, or been so healthy, or recovered from hyperthyroidism, or recovered from feline eosinophilic granulomas, or whatever. It doesn't mean that that is the answer for your cat, even with the same problem. So you are the one that lives with your cats 24/7. So you're the one who really can take all this information, decide to use some of it, and then see what happens. So that's number one, is there's no one right way. Number two, and this is really critical, and the main difference between how I was trained as a veterinarian And what I learned as I became more holistic is the cause, whatever the problem is, unless it's something really like a broken bone or, a tooth that just broke off or something, unless it's something like really a cause like that.
Something acute.
Yeah. So there could be a physical thing, but other than that, the cause of all problems is an imbalance in the energy field. So each of us is born with an energy field, and it's a particular shape, and each one of us is different. We might spend our whole life being a shy, slightly timid kitty. We might spend our whole life being, I'm going to go for everything. Bat that toy around and bat you around a little bit and bat that other kitty around. Your energy field shape might have you be super sensitive to what you're eating. And if you're eating dry food, you're not going to do well. Other kitties might be eating dry food and actually thrive. I never would recommend dry food because it's not good for the planet and it's not as good for health. However, again, when they're not sensitive to it, it might not be as big a deal. So whatever, they may be sensitive to toxins. They might be more sensitive to the emotions of the people around them. This is something you're born with. Oh, wait a minute. Well, that's genetics. You can't fix that. Well, yes, you can. If you increase the vitality and improve the balance of this energy field, then what they're sensitive to has a higher margin. It has a higher trigger level. So if they're born with a sensitivity to foods and they're perfectly healthy and vital and wonderful, they may do fine eating food that's not as healthy as it is for other cats. So the key is to improve this vitality and rebalance, because here's what happens. If the vitality is a little lower and there's something they're susceptible to, and we don't always know what it is, this energy field is then pushed out of balance. It wants to get back in balance again as much as it can. What's normal for it? The only way that it can get back into balance is to produce a symptom. So that's the cause of every symptom, of every disease, is that the energy field got pushed out of balance and created a symptom. Therefore, when you, as we did in conventional medicine, when you focus on getting rid of a symptom, you're not helping that energy field rebalance itself. Make sense?
Yes, definitely. It reminds me a lot of in Chinese medicine, how each type of personality is a different constitution that's associated with a different element. And they're all prone to different imbalances that then we have to rebalance to restore that vitality.
And even in Chinese medicine or in any approach, and that's why Chinese medicine is holistic or can be holistic.
Yeah.
Is if you have a good balance, even before there are any symptoms, if you're working on maintaining balance, maybe you can identify through pulse taking, through tongue, through just observation, this shy, timid cat or this whoppy cat might fall into a wood, metal, etc. And then you can by keeping the balance high, they will not develop those illnesses. Or if they do develop the illnesses, you then work at bringing them back into balance. Now, this is the real key thing. And it's really, I'm glad that you brought this up, because not all holistic practitioners, veterinarians, or lay practitioners, not all of them recognize that there's an underlying energy field imbalance that needs to be rebalanced. We have veterinarians who have taken a weekend course in acupuncture, And they learned, do these points if it's arthritic, do these points if it's hyperthyroid, do these points. Now, does that make sense from what you've already learned? No, because every animal is unique. Each animal is different, and we don't know what's going on in the energy field. So if a holistic veterinarian, even highly recommended, says if you go to a holistic veterinarian with your kitty and say your cat has been drinking more, maybe urinating more, but otherwise has been pretty good, but you're a little concerned. And what they do is say, oh, we're going to do blood tests. And that's the first thing they say. Well, okay, blood tests might be good. But then they go, okay, there's high kidney values. Probably you're going to need to euthanize your cat because these kidney values, they can, no. You walk out the door, you say, thank you very much. I'll take my blood work and go. Now, it may not be that dramatic. It may be you go in and your kitty has ear mites. And they swab out the black gooby stuff and put it on a microscope and show you the ear mites walking around. You can see those ear mites. Now, wait a minute, Dr. Christina. You said everything is caused by an imbalance in the energy field. That's a bug in there. Didn't the bug cause the problem? No, not directly, because you could expose 20 cats to ear mites. And while you might pull an ear mite out of every cat, not every cat is going to have yucky stuff happening. And that has to do with the energy field. And so if you went in and it was ear mites and they give you a topical Chinese herb combination or a homeopathic topical, or say use olive oil and whatever in the ear, and that's all they do. Great, go ahead, treat the ear, but it's time to move on to a different holistic vet. Although that might be the time to ask this veterinarian, well, doc, aren't we supposed to be rebalancing the whole energy field? And they may go, oh, you really want that? And then you say, can you do a complete intake, case taking homeopathically, or if they said they were Chinese medicine, can you do tongue and pulse diagnosis? And maybe they're just waiting to be asked. Maybe they're in another clinic and they don't feel they can always do everything. So sometimes ask, and then the other might be to go find another one. So this is the real nub of this entire talk today, is that don't ever blame yourself. Don't ever say you'd made the wrong decisions, but you are in charge. And so one of the places I'm now participating with is Dr. Jeff Feynman created the Holistic Actions for Healthy Pets Academy. And it's a community of people who are really committed to building this energy field, keeping it balanced, and maintaining longevity and full health. So members have access to a talk every Monday night, a 1-hour webinar. And if they don't get there live where they can have all their questions answered, they get a recording of it. They also get a 24/7 forum where they can post any questions at all. And with all the educational material that's there, 5-6 years worth that you can access, you will constantly be reminded it's about building vitality. There's the answer to any question, what should I do now? The answer is always, it depends. It depends on what's available, how acute it is, what you have what you know how to do. And so we're supporting you in doing that. And what I'll say, after having worked with people for about 3 years there and my 40-some years of practicing homeopathy and now coaching people, is even when you've heard this. You've heard me say this today, or this is the 5th time you've heard somebody say this. And all of a sudden there's a bleeding wound on your cat, maybe an abscess, and you're going, what do I need to do to fix the abscess? You're not immediately going to go, oh, that's interesting. What's the context of this abscess? Was it a bite wound? Is it something the body produced by itself? How can we treat this and support the whole body and build vitality? You may not do that. It may take you 10 years before you get to that point. And that's okay. At some point, if you're participating in something that reminds you, if you've found a really good holistic veterinarian to work with, even if I know most people think cats don't like to ride in cars, so they don't want to go a long way to find that really great holistic vet for their cats. You know what? 90% of cats can be trained to love to ride in cars. Most of it is our thinking that they won't like that. So when you found somebody good, make sure you're going to them regularly. If you have a perfectly healthy cat, apparently, and we'll talk about that with the early warning signs in a moment, you still want to have a good checkup once a year. A Chinese medicine vet will use the energy flows in the body, feeling for hot spots, feeling for the pulse. Is the pulse thready, high, hot? Is it pointing out illnesses in different parts of the body? What's the color of the tongue? What's the hair coat consistency? And they'll ask you questions like, what's the sleep like? What's the eating like? They're going to really be evaluating. And then I would also, once or even twice a year, and this can usually be done by phone, I would work with an animal intuitive and have them do an energy scan of the body and see what they pick up. If you have a veterinary chiropractor or a chiropractor trained in veterinary chiropractic, you can get that exam. You might or might not be able to find one veterinarian who does it all. If you find one that does chiropractic and homeopathy and great, wonderful Chinese medicine, you're doing super good. That any one of them is fine. The chiropractor will be feeling for imbalances, or an osteopath. When you're looking, you look under chiropractors and osteopaths, and they're looking for imbalances. They're looking for how the fascia is moving properly or not properly. I know one cat that started to be just really grumpy, and it was this really sweet cat, and the conventional vet couldn't find anything wrong with it at all. And they found an osteopathic veterinarian nearby, and the osteopathic vet did an exam and discovered that there was fascia stuck in the shoulder. And then they remembered that the cat had gotten its leg trapped at one point, it was like in the bedclothes or something, and seemed to be fine afterwards. But it was ever since then that the cat had been grouchy. They released the fascia where it was stuck, and the cat's wonderful personality came back. So there's this variety of what you can do. If nobody's nearby, there are homeopathic veterinarians who do virtual consulting. And now there are general holistic veterinarians who are also very well versed in building energy fields who are now working virtually. So you have somebody on call, but you also need somebody hands-on. So you may need to find a veterinarian you can work with in your local area. So that's important, especially one who likes kitties. Okay, so that's the key thing. There's no right answer, no one right expert. You're in charge, but don't ever feel guilty or anything because you're just doing the best you can. And the goal is rebalancing that energy field. Use this as a perspective for the rest of the talks in this summit. Listen to it through that. Now, having said, before we move on to those early clues, Having said that, there are two parts to keeping your cat healthy and happy. One is rebalancing the energy field and doing what you need. The other is if symptoms are present, you can soothe them. There are lots of things you can do to soothe them. And so we'll get into that in a moment. But here you are. You've got a healthy kitty, you think. And then you pick up my book. You go to the internet and you order the Healthy Cat Journal at my website. And all of a sudden you read this list of early warning signs that the energy field is out of balance. Early clues. They don't mean a disease. They're things that that conventional veterinarians and people not thinking this paradigm just think are normal. Things like vomiting hairballs. It's a perfect sign of an internal imbalance. Whereas in conventional medicine, we go, oh, cats just vomit hairballs. You need a hairball gel. You need a Buddha mix. It's not always conventional treatments. It can be using holistic to mask a symptom. So you could just keep your cat on Buddha mix forever to not have hairball vomiting, or you could notice the hairball vomiting. And if it's really frequent, you could start on some Buddha mix to soothe and then work to rebalance the energy field, stop the Buddha mix, and see if it's gone. If it is, I'm more balanced. My kitty's more balanced than she was. Drinking water. What? We're all supposed to drink water, right? Well, not really. Cats originated in the desert, and they didn't have much water to drink. So they developed kidneys and brain mechanisms that don't get them drinking a lot. Therefore, when they're forced to drink water, i.e. by eating dry food or even chemicals, foods that are chemically laden, depending on their sensitivity, depending on their individual problem, they are going to have to drink water. But if they're not on dry food and they're drinking water on a regular basis, then it's a clue that maybe their energy field is off balance. It might just be them, but usually it's a clue their energy field is off balance. Hair that mats. Oh, but I've got a blank, 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 blank. They have soft fur and it mats a lot. Well, with some cats, you definitely need to do a certain amount of grooming. But shedding a lot, matting a lot, that's a sign. Again, think to yourself for a moment, what would happen to that cat in the wild? It might not live because of that. It might, get too caught up and get caught into the prickers or something and somebody would eat it. So that's another of the clues. Another is if you see a little red line above one or more of their teeth. Now, I'm not talking about stomatitis or gingivitis where the whole gums are bad. That is an itis. It's a disease. It's an inflammation. But I'm talking about just this little red line that comes and goes. That's a clue. Cats, now this is one for you. Cats whose energy field is completely balanced will not be picky eaters. Oh, but all cats are picky eaters. Nope. Now, of course, you could have a cat that was completely balanced who in its lifetime had only been fed one brand of dry food. And they won't eat another food. So sometimes it's circumstances. But in general, that's a clue that they're not as healthy as possible. Toenails, fragile, too thick, that shredding kind of toenail that they do, that type of thing that we just sort of put up with and think is normal, isn't. Behaviors. Many of the behaviors that we think are maybe an illness are just the energy field is out of balance, or we just put it aside to, oh, that cat, we have to always avoid touching him because he's going to bite.
A lot of the cats that we just say have stress issues.
Or the cats just the opposite that hide. every time somebody comes into the house. So all these little subtle behavior problems. Now, again, I said at the beginning, some healthy cats might be a little more timid or a little more outgoing. But if you're working to rebalance the energy field and you have this on your master symptom list, then if it goes away after you do something, you go, oh, okay, that was a symptom. And you always look at the totality of symptoms, as we call it in homeopathy. So you're looking at all symptoms now and always in the past. So that's critical. So let's move on to the third, which is sort of encompasses all of the above, which is what can you do to make the biggest difference in your cat's life now that you totally get that we're working at fixing the energy field. You're committed to that. But wait a minute. Okay. Has she said how to do that yet? Well, Chinese medicine, homeopathy, chiropractic, osteopathy. But what can I do? So there is a huge shift now in the holistic veterinary community, in the holistic human community. It's been there for decades and it was there centuries ago, but it's becoming more and more available and popular now. And that is energy healing medicine. And I suspect there are going to be a few speakers on that. Are there?
Oh, yeah. We've already had one, fabulous Dr. Erin Holder.
Excellent. And who else?
We have a whole lineup, so we'll be announcing those soon.
Good. Okay, great. So I want you to particularly, out of all the talks in the summit, I want you to focus on the energy healing methods. Now, these can all be done by trained professionals for your cat remotely, especially if you have a cat who doesn't want to ride in the car and you haven't trained them yet, but it can be done remotely. And they're very effective, but how much more effective if you can do it yourself? A lot of these methods are ones that you do for you and for your cat at the same time, like emotional freedom technique. You doing that one?
No, tell us about that.
Okay. So that's not one of your speakers.
Not that I'm aware of yet, but hopefully we can get them on.
So emotional freedom technique is also called tapping. You'll hear it called that. And
yeah, I think most people have heard of that for people.
Great. Here's what you do. You are wanting to build your cat's energy field. You want to rebalance it. And so you start tapping the different places and you go, even though I don't know what my cat's energy field needs at this point, I know that I can find the answer to what my cat needs. I know that there are resources available that I can find. So that's one approach. Another would be you have a timid cat, or they're scared of noises and you know noises are coming into the house. You sit down with your cat before the noises come, like, painting or strangers coming in, and you sit down with the cat and you go, even though you are scared of noises and there are going to be noises, there will be noises. And once you learn EFT, you'll learn sort of how to transition to all of this. You will not need to be afraid. This time, it will not be scary to you. So two things are happening here. You are programming yourself to not be afraid that your cat's going to be freaking out, and you're programming your cat. Now, we also have people who teach EFT that you can actually do on your cat. So you're not going to follow the exact same protocol, but it'll be similar. Eden Energy Medicine, EDEN. Donna Eden has been around for decades, and she, again, has protocols that you use for yourself and transfer to your animals. And then there are people who have taken those points. Hers are things like stroking your arm to, like, if you're tired and you still have to get something done, stroke your arm and you do something like this. So there are different movements to stimulate your different energy systems and your different energy fields. And there are people who have adapted that to use with animals. Reiki is widely accepted. It's available almost everywhere. So you can learn how to do it. And then there's a group called SARA, Shelter Animal Reiki Association, which helps shelters get people to come in regularly to do Reiki in the shelter, which then, of course, increases the adoption rate phenomenally because their energy field gets fixed. And they've documented it. And they have programs that you can join for free, a lot of them, and some for low cost, where you get monthly support with using Reiki with your animals. Now, a lot of people say that cats are too sensitive for Reiki. And it is true that if you go to put Reiki on, if you put your hands on your cat and start doing Reiki, they may skedaddle. Or when you get ready, they don't want to. So here's what you do. And the other thing is you go, wait a minute, I've got 6 cats or more. I don't have time to do every one of them. So you don't. With any of these energy methods, you can do it this way. So you sit there and go, maybe the cats can be in the room with you when you start, but the door's open. Or you go wherever they're hanging out and you go, I am going to do Reiki for all living beings in the house. Plants, people, insects, everybody, and your kitties. Now, and you just notice what the kitties do. They may leave the room. They may come over to you. They may push some part of their body up against your hand. And if they do that, put your hand there and do Reiki directly. If you do this every day, 2 things happen. One is it helps rebalance the energy field. It might help rebalance the energy field and prevent future problems. And 2, if there's an acute episode of anything, you'll remember, oh, I can offer Reiki. We often forget the tools that we have. And then there's energy methods like Bingston energy method, Webb, whole energy body balance, lots of quantum healing. And I know I'm not doing my whole list right here, but the key is there are lots of energy methods that you can use. So that is the biggest, really the best thing you can do for yourself. And every time you do something energy-wise, add a prayer or a thought for Mother Gaia as well. The other piece of energy, we've all heard of earthing or grounding. Even if you have an indoor kitty, even if you live in New York City, train your cat to love to have a harness. Train your cat to be comfortable, even not going for a walk necessarily, being led on a harness, but you could have the harness on them, carry them in their cat carrier. I mean, you might do this at 2:00 in the morning when it's the quietest out. You may have to do this at odd times. Find a patch of grass and have your cat enjoy being on the earth. Have your cat enjoy earthing. And each cat's going to be different, of course.
Yeah, that's a great tip.
So whatever you do, you want to work at being out there and connecting with the planet. And then just 3 quick other things. One is food. The best food is what they're anatomically designed for. And I know you're having talks on that. The key thing, again, is there's no one right diet. So whatever anybody tells you, however wonderful they are, if you try it and it doesn't work, try somebody else's approach.
Yeah, experimentation is key.
And I recommend, because I've seen this help so often, not feeding ground food. So many cat people who are really good do grind the food. Now that may be necessary in transition, or it might be necessary in a busy schedule for many of the meals, but at least 2 or 3 times a week. Give them something big enough that they can go, so in addition to cleaning their teeth and strengthening their jaws, they're getting a chiropractic adjustment at the same time.
Yeah, that's good for their vitality too. To make them feel strong, like a strong hunter.
And that's good with games and indoor play as well, to make them feel like a hunter. Now, if you can make your own, that's the best, because you can buy local, support our planet by supporting local farmers that are growing sustainably. If you can't, that's okay. Just do the best you can. There's a lot of foods that are out there now. So just pay attention to all those early warning signs when you try new food. Is your animal feeling better overall or not? Dr. Feynman of Holistic Actions created an acronym I love, BEAM. Beam the light on health. So B is behavior, energy, appetite, and mood. If all of those are doing well, you're moving in the right direction, whatever you're doing. Finally, you want to decrease toxins. So that means being mindful of vaccines. Vaccines are full of toxins. And so learn about them. Hopefully there'll be a speaker on that. But particularly cats are more susceptible to vaccines and to some of the specific toxins in vaccines. But there are other toxins around as well. If you have a very well-balanced animal who doesn't have a super sensitivity to toxins, they'll be healthy living in New York City. You can't avoid toxins in New York City. But one of the most incredible, I recommend everybody get this book, in addition to my Healthy Cat Journal, is Anitra Fraser's book, The Natural Cat. Now, Anitra Fraser has been taking care of cats in New York City since the early 80s. And she's 86 and still bicycling around New York City tending to kitties. So there definitely can be healthy kitties in the midst of lots of toxins wherever you live, by building vitality. That's really the key.
That's amazing. Well, Dr. Christina, we've got to wrap up today. So thank you for your time and sharing so many of these fabulous resources with us. Where can the audience learn more from you? Can you just remind us your social links and your website, please?
Absolutely. So basically, I've got an unusual enough name that if you do any kind of a Google search for Christina Chambreau or Dr. Christina Chambreau, and my name's right there, that you will find me. My website, drchristinachambreau.com, or if you're listening to this in audio, myhealthyanimals.com, or the email is healthyanimals@aol.com. And then holisticactions.com. And my phone number is 443-895-9555. And social media, I'm on Instagram, mostly with Holistic Actions. Facebook, Healthy, I think it's called. If you just put in my name, it'll come up. I'm sure it's Healthy Animal Vet, maybe.
Awesome. Well, thank you for making yourself so available online for all the pet owners out there. It's really helpful to have vets like yourself be accessible to all the pet owners these days.
I actually you mentioned that, all the pet owners. We didn't bring this up, but this summit is being listened to by people from around the world. Remember, wherever you live, you can find holistic help, even if it's virtually from another country. I have an article on my website with how to find them. Holistic Actions has a free article on selecting and working with a vet. So wherever you are, you can adapt what you're hearing in this summit to where you live and to your animals.
Yes. Definitely. And Dr. Christina and myself are both available for online consults. So just contact either one of us if you guys have more questions. But otherwise, that's a wrap for today. And thank you again for your time. It's been a pleasure speaking with you today.
Thank you.